to call a 200 guest wedding an elopement is a stretch, but I don't think that you have to say like, oh, any more than 5 and it's not an elopement. Like, where in the elopement rule book have you ever seen that? You know?
Yeah. Welcome to Elopements with the Pinckards, our show to share our elopement expertise with couples who are thinking about eloping or might be right in the middle of planning their own elopement. My name is Dan Pinckards and my beautiful wife Laura is my co-host. Our hope is that sharing our experiences will make this process less stressful for you, so let's jump right into this week's episode.
Welcome. Isn't it funny when podcast people do that? Welcome back to the show.
Welcome to episode number 2.
Welcome to our show, where it's a podcast.
Yes. Welcome to episode number 2.
That's 1, 2.
That's the one right after number 1.
Yep.
We are going to be talking about everything elopement in this podcast. You know, this is all about elopements. It's elopements with the Pinckards. Today, we are specifically going to talk about what an elopement looks like. Like, what does it actually look like? Chances are, most people listening to this probably haven't even been to an elopement before because the nature of elopements are...
They've probably seen pictures of an elopement, but that doesn't really give you the full picture of what it is, especially because we'll have a lot of people that are thinking about eloping reach out to us and basically say, what does it look like? Yeah. So even people considering eloping don't really know what it all entails. I think they just see the pictures and then that's it. And it's like, oh yeah, eloping is like, but what is it?
It's like, what I want to elope. I want to have a wedding, just the two of us. But what does that mean? You know, it's like people already decide they want to do it without even knowing what they're deciding.
It's fine. It's just like,
yeah, it's just funny.
You know, people want to know.
But yeah, so we just kind of want to answer that question. Like, what does an elopement actually look like?
And how many times can we say the word elopement in our podcast?
We should count that. So somebody should count the number of times we say it in this podcast and DM us on Instagram. We'll give you a shout. We'll give you a shout out
to Starbucks,
or just a shout out. No promises being made here.
Hey, I never promised.
So we were thinking we could start off by talking about some examples of elopements that we have helped plan and photograph as kind of like a way to give the listeners some insight into what an elopement could look like. Mm-hmm. So talking about real life, real couples, real weddings that we've done, weddings, quote unquote. And just with the understanding that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to look like these ones, you know?
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when other people in the industry, whether that's just solely elopement photographers or wedding photographers, elopement vendors, it's either like us where we're like, you can literally do whatever you want, or it's someone that has a very specific guideline to elopements and they won't do elopements unless they look a certain way. Like, we're only doing it if it's this cool hike and that's it, or it has to be no guests or else it's not considered an elopement, which to me is just kind of like you putting a label on an elopement makes it, to me, seem and feel more like a traditional wedding because you're adding in things that you're considering traditions when the whole point of elopements is to just do whatever you want, not what your photographer thinks that you should do.
Yeah, that's the big difference between an elopement and a wedding. It's not the size, it's the attitude that you're
it's not even what you do, really. Like, it's not like where you go. Like, you can go somewhere cool, but just because you went to Costa Rica doesn't mean that you had an elopement, you know.
And that's really the broad answer to this question of what does an elopement look like. Is it looks like a wedding where your focus is not on traditions, not on putting on an anemone. It's not putting on an event for people. It's not focusing on the event. It's focusing on just getting married to the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. And that's the big difference. And sometimes people do draw that stuff into elopements. And it's just taking away from what's valuable about elopements. So, but yeah, amen. So we could start off by talking about some real elopements. So last year we did an elopement with MJ and Sam. And it was a really fun one. It was kind of crazy. It was fun. It was like
It was fun. It was crazy. It was fun.
it was crazy. It was fun. It was fun. It was crazy.
That's all that happened, really.
That's all. That's it. Well, hopefully that shared some insight into.
Yeah, and so then listen for episode 3.
Yeah, we're done. We'll see you guys later. Okay. Continuing.
Yeah, so they reached out to us about their they like hiking, and so obviously we do a lot of hiking if you know anything about our Instagram or our social medias or whatever. So they wanted to do Algonquin, which is the second highest peak in New York. And they wanted to do it at sunrise, so that they could hike back down midday and then have a ceremony after their personal vows on the summit with their families down by the lake in Lake Placid. So what time do we end up getting up with them? We started hiking at like 3 in the morning, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So we hiked in the middle of the night, pitch black, and got to the top for sunrise. And they read their personal vows to each other. So that was kind of like the initial part of the day, was them reading vows to each other with the sun coming up over the mountains on top of the second largest mountain in New York, which I think was a meaningful hike for them for some reason. I don't think they just chose it
Hadn't they already hiked it before?
I think maybe they did.
Probably.
But yeah, so that was the first part of their day, and then we hiked back down with them. We slept in our car for like, it was like 2 hours. Yeah,
because we had barely the night before, I think we went to bed at like 10 or something like that, and then we had to leave.
We got like 2 hours of sleep.
I want to say max 2 hours, if that.
Yeah, and so we
took a nap in our car.
Yeah, we slept in our car. I think in like the McDonald's parking lot or something.
It was because we were starving, so we got McDonald's. Really healthy.
So we slept in our car for like 2 hours, and then after that, we went and met up with them and their family for a ceremony. And this was like more of it was just maybe 20 people,
no,
15
not
people.
Even, not even. It was like her sister, her mom, and dad, and his parents, and
I think they had grandma. There were a couple couples there. They had a few friends.
It might have been like 10.
Yeah, maybe 10 people.
Outside of them. I don't remember. But
yeah,
it was,
somewhere around 10,
very
15
intimate.
People. And so it was a very small wedding, but it was like a normal wedding ceremony. We didn't officiate the ceremony. Somebody else did. But it was a fun little ceremony that they did with their family. We took pictures of that. And then we
did family photos. We did portraits of them on the lake.
On the lake,
like
yeah. Yeah, they went out on a little rowboat on the lake.
Yep.
So we did some like drone shots. That was fun. So that day was a long day. It was unique. Most couples don't do a sunrise hike for the second tallest mountain in New York
and then do a ceremony after too.
Yeah. Sometimes when they want to do something hard like that, they space it out between multiple days. So it was unique, but that was one of the ones we did. Another one, Danielle and Anthony. Do you want to share what they did?
Yeah. Love those guys.
Shout out to Danielle and Anthony.
Shout out to MJ and Sam for hiking. Danielle and Anthony, they hiked too. What they wanted to do was, we had taken their engagement pictures the year before, and then they wanted to do an elopement. I think they might have ended up changing their plans from a traditional wedding during COVID. And then reach out to us.
It was before COVID.
Was
yeah.
It? Yeah. Oh, good for them.
It was, we sat down with them for coffee after their engagement session.
In like 2019,
at Old Mountain Coffee.
Yep. 2019, right?
If you're ever in the, yes.
You got to go to Old Mountain.
If you're ever in the Adirondacks, go to Old Mountain Coffee, Keene Valley, Route 73, I believe.
I don't know. I don't know roads. So it's just a coffee shop on the side of the road to me, but you know.
The only coffee shop in Keene Valley.
Yep. That's true, actually.
Go there. So we met up with them for coffee at Old Mountain Coffee after our engagement session, and we talked about eloping, and they really liked the idea. I think they had already considered it a little bit because they followed us on Instagram, but they were sold on the idea. So then they reached out and they booked an elopement with us. And
yeah, so their thing was they wanted to split it up into 2 different days. And the day before their ceremony with their family, we hiked up a pretty pretty moderate to easy hike.
Yeah, it's one of the easier ones.
Yeah, really nice. You can take your dog. They brought their dog with them. And
their dog was obsessed with our cameras like the whole
so
time.
cute,
just
but very
freaking
hyper
out.
focused on Dan and
like
his camera.
hitting my camera with his nose.
Yeah, he's so cute.
What was his name? Cody.
Yeah, I love Cody. Yeah. So they read their personal vows to each other while we took pictures, and then did portraits up there with their dog as well. And then did they legally get married the next day? Yes, they did, because their dad signed as the her dad and his dad, I believe, signed as the witnesses.
Yes.
So they had their personal vows, which was like really meaningful to them, very private, still very adventurous. And then we came back the next day. They stayed with our favorite inn in the Adirondacks.
The Lake Placid
Stagecoach Inn. Love them. and we do a lot of elopements with them because they have a really beautiful property and they're very helpful in like planning things with food and lodging. So they stayed there and had a ceremony that Dan officiated because he's ordained in New York. So Dan officiated a ceremony. They had, I don't know, probably, maybe 15 people and then us. Because we all sat around that table. Mm-hmm. And so they had like a ceremony and chairs and stuff. And then that's when they signed their marriage license. They had a dinner afterwards with their family that they invited us to. So we were just chilling with their family. Took some pictures of the ceremony while Dan was officiating. They got family photos. First look with her dad because she really wanted that. Mm-hmm. So kind of the more traditional things of like a regular wedding, but scaled down to 15 people the day after their like vows. Yeah.
So that one was the reason we bring that one up. That one was unique because it was a 2-day elopement. They did their vows one day and ceremony and all of that other family stuff.
Really similar to MJ and Sam, but just not all in one day.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what kind of person you are. If you want to get everything done and like just have one big day of celebration, then, the way that MJ and Sam did it was really fun and very
Some people are like, I
back.
would never put my dress on twice. So
it just kind of depends. And if you're like Danielle and Anthony, then it's like, you kind of want it to be a little bit more slowed down, relaxed, not worrying too much about that. I think the only thing that's interesting about that is kind of figuring out, like, I think Danielle might have done her makeup and hair by herself the first day. I'm not quite sure about that. And then the next day she might have had someone do it, or maybe her sister did it. I don't know. So either you kind of have to figure out like what you want to do for each day.
So yeah, that was Danielle and Anthony's elopement. That one was that's a lot of fun. It's a lot more laid back when you're doing the hiking another day, so you don't have to worry about packing too much into one day. A third one that we wanted to bring up is a really, really simple laid back elopement that we did actually more recently. It was this winter.
Wasn't it like 4 weeks ago or something like that?
It was in January.
Was it?
I think.
No.
Maybe it was last month.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't know. It was very recent. It's hard to keep track of time when you don't have a normal Monday through Friday 9-to-5 job.
I just learned today that it's Thursday. I did not realize it was. Yeah. So I definitely thought it was like maybe a Wednesday or something. Maybe if Monday. I don't know. Could be Sunday. How would I know?
Yeah.
Because we go to church on Saturday, so it's not like Sundays are like Sundays for us,
But anyways. So Heather and David, they also eloped at the Lake Placid Stagecoach Inn. Common theme. So that was a very, very simple laid back elopement where it was literally just the two of them. They came to the Lake Placid Stagecoach Inn. We showed up to take some getting ready photos and do a first look.
No, I didn't take getting ready photos.
Okay, I thought you did.
No.
Okay. Well, we just showed up for the first look then.
We asked her if she did, and she said she didn't. Okay. She only cared about the first look. That's probably what it was.
So we showed up for a first look. So even more laid back than I thought. We showed up for a first look, and we took pictures of their first look. I officiated a ceremony after we gave them a couple minutes to relax. And
usually we try not to rush it too much on elopement days, just so it doesn't feel like not important.
It's important that they have time. Like they just saw each other for the first time on their wedding day.
Yeah.
So we wanted to give them time to
breathe.
Breathe. And a lot of people get nervous, even elopements. You don't have anyone watching you, but it's like you're making an important decision, like one of
Yeah.
the most important decisions of your life. It's like, it's an important moment. So just giving them a chance to breathe, to be with each
Mhm.
other. So we did that. And then
You officiated.
I
We did it
officiated a ceremony.
inside. So
Yep.
the other two were both outside because they were in one was in June or July and the other
Yeah.
one was in October. So warm
Yeah.
enough to be outside, and usually that we prefer that for just photos, and usually people are having us do their elopements because they're kind of adventurous outdoorsy people.
Mhm.
But this day was like really cold, and they just had
Yeah.
already
Very
planned to
windy
do
too.
it in front of the fireplace with the fire going. It was really cute, very intimate, no one else there. Um, and then afterwards we gave them a couple minutes, I believe, or maybe we just drove right there. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think we gave them a couple minutes.
Yeah, usually there's like 5 minutes in between everything that we do, maybe 10 sometimes, just to so it doesn't
sometimes more.
feel
It really
rushed.
depends
Yeah,
on the couple.
depends on the vibes, you know.
Yeah, it depends on the vibes. We really try to take it like case by case
Mhm.
because there really is no cookie cutter.
And that's why it's so hard to explain what an elopement is because,
Yeah.
well, not hard, but it's like there's not one way to do it. So it's like this is someone did it this way and this way and this way, and
Yeah,
either
there's
way,
no right or
it's
wrong
yeah,
answer. And for us, because that's how elopements are, we take each one like we're just going to be flexible with whatever the day brings, whatever the couple wants.
Mhm.
So we don't go into it saying like this is how it has to go. Like you have
Yeah.
to
We're
follow these
only doing your
rules.
elopement if you hike this mountain and you do this, and
Yeah. And so some people will ask us, well, what does this look like? And we say, well, this is what some have looked like. What do you want to do?
right,
So it's never a cookie cutter. This is what it has to be.
right.
Those are some examples. And then we did some portraits with them.
Yeah, we went out into
Um,
the snow,
yeah.
with like
By a
mountains.
lake
Yeah,
and with some mountains in the background.
for like 20
And
minutes because it was
yeah, it
freezing.
was super cold. So that was super laid back. So it really, really just depends. The whole point in bringing up those three examples is it shows kind of three different approaches to what the elopement could be.
Mhm.
And so we thought that would be helpful to kind of give some insight into what some people do.
Mhm.
Now that's what some of our clients have done. Honestly, there are people who go on hot air balloon rides. There are people who
City
will
Hall.
do city hall. Some
Mhm.
people will travel overseas. We had an elopement intimate wedding kind of hybrid that was
Sydney, Dave.
Sydney and Dave. It really just depends on what the couple wants to do. And I guess a really good question to ask in approaching like what should an elopement look like is what would you as the couple, you as the two people getting married, what would your ideal day look like with each other? Like what if you were going to go on a date and have it be perfect?
Mhm.
What would it look like? And that's what your elopement should be. If that's
Right.
hiking a mountain, do that. If you guys hate hiking,
Yeah.
don't make
Do
yourselves
not
miserable
be
just for
miserable.
photos.
Yeah. And there is something to be said about like if photos are important, find a way to get really cool photos, but that way should not be making you both miserable on your wedding day just because you want, a few cuz
Yeah. The photos are meant to capture you enjoying your wedding day.
yeah.
Not
Like yeah, they can be cool,
pretend.
but don't
Yeah.
don't do something that you hate. Or if you do want pictures of yourself somewhere on a mountain but you hate hiking, we know of a bunch of different spots that are super easy to hike that
like
still look
short.
really
They're more of just walks in
so
the
it's
woods.
not just like, hey, we want to do like the tallest mountain in New York because it would be cool, but we never
Mhm.
hike. It's like, hey, we don't hike and we don't like hiking, but like, what is your suggestions for like smaller hikes?
Yeah, definitely. So from there, we were gonna also go into some questions, just kind of like general questions about elopements,
Hey,
and
Dan,
try to. Yes.
how many guests can an elopement have?
Oh, that's the first question, isn't it?
Oh, it is? I didn't know. I was just,
You're reading it off the notes.
no, I didn't even look.
So yeah, the first question: how many guests can an elopement have?
And I think we kind of already like touched on this a little bit as we were talking about the first two when they had guests. There is no rules. So I think to call a 200 guest wedding an elopement is a stretch, but I don't think that you have to say like, oh, any more than 5 and it's not an elopement. Like where in the elopement rule book have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
It's
And that's something I have seen from some like venues or vendors, like even elopement photographers. They'll say anything over this amount is considered a wedding,
It's
and
like,
then I
who's
charge.
considering it that? Please let me know.
Yeah,
Like, I want to read where you're like, it's just very biased
yeah,
by each person. So it's like, that's what you consider. That's not necessarily there's no rules about it.
exactly.
And that's what I'm
And
saying about the industry, like making up these things that aren't really necessarily true. Like, you can say that that's your preference as a photographer or a vendor. Like, we don't consider, but you don't just say it's not considered. Like,
yeah.
who is it's,
Well, yeah,
you know,
that's the thing is like, if
it
you were
bugs
going to
me.
draw a
Can you
line for
tell?
the number of people who, yeah, I could tell. If you were going to draw a line for the number of people who could be included in an elopement, then you really like the only line you really could reasonably draw is just the couple, and no guests. That other than that, why 5? Why 6? Why 10?
Right.
Like why any other
and
number?
I get having a cutoff as the photographer, like you don't want to take family photos with like 50 people, but you saying that that's like the rule, there are no rules. So you gotta like say it how it is. Like, this is my personal
limit.
Yeah, these are my limits as a photographer, not as, because then people get this idea of elopements in their head that, there's a specific way to do it, or you have to go somewhere specific, or you have to hike, or you have to go on a hot air balloon or something like that. That's not true at all.
Yeah. When in reality, the real thing, like we said before, that's important is, are you prioritizing getting married, or are you prioritizing an event that's happening? The event would be the wedding. Getting married is what
lifetime.
And so it's just the attitude approaching it. And you can have that same attitude with a large wedding. And it's like, you're not going to call a 200-person wedding an elopement just because you have that attitude. But it's just that general idea of approaching it, because you can have an elopement that you treat just like a wedding, and it becomes just as stressful. It becomes just as chaotic. They can be expensive if you start just dropping money left and right. And so it's, you can treat an elopement like a wedding and a wedding like an elopement. What really just matters is the mindset that you're, that's deep.
Oh my gosh. Should that be our like slogan? No, but it was good. Yeah. So the answer to that question is there isn't really any specific number. I would say if you're concerned about like pricing wise based on a venue or the photographer in general, because a lot of photographers, like we said, have certain guideline limits, things that they put in place for what they consider an elopement. So it's always important to ask that question to whoever you're considering having your photos done by. But for us, it's more about, like Dan said, the mindset behind it, the mentality of it. Like, why are these people here? Is it just to put on a production? Are these people that really care about you? Like, if you have 10 siblings and you are close with all of them, then they should be there, if you want them there. So it's like, some people have one sibling, so you can't just say, oh, you should bring all your siblings and it's one. And it's like, oh, one is an elopement and 10 isn't.
Like you could have two different couples. One has, they each have one sibling and they have their parents, and it ends up being like 6 people other than them that are at their elopement. And a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, that's definitely an elopement, only 6 people. Right, but you could have another family, like Laura's family, she has 5 siblings, so 5 siblings. If there are 2 families like that, then you're easily getting to the like 10 to 15 mark.
Right.
And so some photographers would be like, that's not an elopement, you have too many people. So
I'm going to charge you $3,000 more because you have 5 more people than what I consider an elopement. Or we're not going to shoot it.
Or what. And so it's just like those number restrictions or like cutoffs for what is an elopement and what isn't. That's not how we approach it. To us, it's more the mindset and the approach to the day. So going on to the second question.
So then the second question would be, what does an elopement ceremony look like?
Yeah, that's a very common question, just because like people have seen traditional wedding ceremony, like
or they've been in a wedding where
like maybe you've been in a bunch of wedding parties. Like we talked to somebody recently who was like, I've been in like
3.
Yeah, this person was like, I've been in like 20 different weddings.
I don't know 20 people that I would go to the wedding even.
Well, they were saying like wedding party, like they've been.
How do you know that many people?
Yeah, I don't know. But they were like, I know weddings in and out. And then they were asked us, they were like, but an elopement ceremony, like what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just so like you don't know. Is it the same? Like, is it completely different? And so basically we take two different
Twofold
approaches.
approach.
Yeah, a twofold approach. Where I usually will sign as the officiant on the marriage license. I'm ordained to officiate weddings in New York. Getting out of state, it gets a little bit more complicated. It depends on the state. Different states have different requirements. But I typically will sign as the officiant, and I offer to conduct a ceremony for the couple. My ceremonies are kind of like mimicking a traditional wedding ceremony in a lot of ways, but probably a little bit more laid back.
Well, yeah, they're non-religious, kind of more of just an encouraging charge about marriage and
and talking about the magnitude and like the importance of the decision that they're making. Like it is an important day. It's not dismissive. Like,
right.
Some people think of like, oh, you're just eloping. Like you're not even taking it seriously, but that's not the case. You know?
And I think that used to be like the stigma behind eloping when our parents were younger is like, oh, they just like want to get married real quick. And like, that's it, which that's totally not the idea behind most people who are eloping is usually they want to make it about just themselves instead of about the whole production of big weddings.
They're prioritizing their marriage and not an event.
So why not prioritize the ceremony about that marriage?
Yeah. So when I conduct a ceremony, I do take that approach where I try to add personal elements in for the couple to make it unique. And I think all of our clients have said that they absolutely love the ceremony. Not to toot my own horn, but what was this?
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm doing. But our clients have said
I'll toot your horn for you.
Okay. Moving on.
I was actually going to toot your horn.
Okay. It just sounded weird.
I know. That's why I laughed. That's the whole point of the laugh. Yeah. You know, where something's weird and you laugh at it.
And funny. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch on to these social cues.
Yeah, it's all right. I got you.
I'm learning.
No, I agree with you. Every client.
See, I laughed because
that was really good. Every client has said to you, like, wow, that was like a lot more meaningful than I assumed it was going to be. Like, I just thought we were, gonna, not everyone has said that specifically, but basically the overall consensus about the way that you officiate is very intentional about each client and very focused on the marriage and not the wedding or other people there or whatever it usually is.
Yeah. And I've had family members come up to me and say, one time, I think a dad of one of the couple, one of the people that was getting married, came up to me and he was like, I did not expect to enjoy that ceremony, but I did. And he was like, I thought it was going to be terrible.
Yeah, he was like, I thought it wasn't going to be like professional.
I was like, what? Like, was it when he saw me? Like,
yeah, you're too young.
Yeah, I guess maybe. But that's my approach. The other thing that we offer to clients, and we've had a couple people do this, but it's not the most common, is to basically have me sign the marriage license as the officiant and then let them do more of just a personal like vow reading to each other. And that is the ceremony. So it's not this like traditional formal, you have an officiant that's conducting the ceremony, but it's more of this just really intimate moment.
I would say it's like 60-40. I think 60% usually prefer you to do a ceremony, and then a good chunk, like 40%, I would say.
I think maybe 40% if you include the people who do a hike and say personal vows and then do a ceremony with their family.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Then I think it would probably be 40%.
Yeah. It just kind of depends on like what your personalities are, because a lot of the times a lot of the clients that we have that elope are one of the reasons they're eloping is because they don't want to make it this big production, and they also just don't want to I don't know, sometimes they don't want to be personal in front of, two people that they haven't met before.
Like, they're not super outgoing and they don't want to stand in front of 200 people. Why would they want to stand in front of
you
two
officiating?
people that they don't
so
know.
Sometimes with when they just read their vows, we'll start further back with some longer lenses and kind of give them that time alone
more
together.
privacy.
Yeah, we're kind of out of earshot a little bit, and
Yeah.
then we'll slowly move up to get a little bit more closer details, if they're going to exchange rings and stuff with
Yeah.
each other, things like that.
It kind of helps them get in the flow of saying their vows. We're farther away, can't really hear them.
Not performing for us or getting nervous about us. Like if they're going to be nervous, it should just be about reading their vows to each other, not about us.
And I think most people, once they start getting into it and they're reading it,
you don't even notice
they don't
us.
notice anything that's going on around them.
Right.
It's just that initial like getting started. If there are people close listening, then it's like, okay, this is
it's a very personal thing too. So it's like if you're a personal person, you don't want two people right up there. Like,
and so that's something we've kind of learned from experience is to start further back, give them a little bit more privacy. And so those are kind of the two things that we suggest or offer to clients is like, this is how your ceremony could look. But honestly, like it really is just up to the couple. If they were to say, hey, we really want to do a ceremony this way, maybe I can't officiate it the way that they want necessarily, but they can always bring somebody else in to officiate it, or they can do something unique on their own or whatever. Like there's no cookie cutter right or wrong approach. The
only legalities that really need to be covered is just New York State requires that Dan witnesses the intent of marriage before he signs the marriage license.
Yeah.
So
I just have to, I am witnessing two people saying that they want to get married to each other.
It's not like a forced marriage or, the one person isn't actually wanting to get married or something like that.
There's nothing faked about it or
So then other than that, you can basically just do whatever you want.
Yeah. And that's a very common theme is it's whatever you want. It's flexible. It's
not
fluid.
What we define it as either.
Yeah.
Even though we might have some preferences about how we do elopements, that doesn't mean that you have to do that just because that's what we are used to.
Totally.
So here's another question for you.
Okay. Ask away.
Totally not reading this off of our notes either. I just popped up in my mind.
Just a random question.
What if they want to do something totally different than what we've talked about?
I think we've covered that question already.
I'm just summarizing what we have already said, basically.
To wrap it all up, this question is good because this is the common theme throughout this episode is whatever you want your elopement to look like, that's what it can look like. You can literally just get married in your living room if you have an officiant and a witness, or some states don't even need those.
Yep, you can marry yourself in Colorado, by the way.
Yeah, there are a couple of states where you can self-solemnize a marriage and you don't need an officiant, you don't need a witness. I think in Colorado you can even have your dog have like a paw print as the witness.
Yeah, it's really cool actually.
Wait, you don't need a witness though.
I don't think you have. Your dog can sign though somehow. I believe I've seen that before.
I've seen that too. I just don't know what exactly it is.
Yeah, I have no idea. But
you can do whatever you want. You can go on a sailboat. You can take a hot air balloon. You can hike up a mountain. You can go skydiving. You can do whatever you want.
Elope in an Airbnb. You can elope.
Yeah, it could be more laid back. It doesn't have to be one of those.
Yeah, it can be something super chill. Like if you're the kind of person that like you don't even want to get dressed up in a dress, but I've seen a lot of brides like they'll wear jumpsuits and stuff because that's more what they're comfortable with, or they don't want to wear white. Like if you want to wear a black dress for your elopement, like do it because that's first of all,
no
sick.
Right or wrong. So it honestly, I think sometimes this can be more stressful because it's like, we're not just telling you like, okay, this is what you do. This is how it works.
But not really though, because like I said, every photographer or venue or whatever, elopement planner, because those are a thing sometimes, they all have like guidelines of how they usually do elopement. So we're happy to like, if you really are not the kind of person that likes a bunch of different options, if you want us to tell you what we think would be a good elopement for you, we're totally down for that.
Yeah.
The whole thing is though, if you hear someone saying this is how to elope, basically just assume that isn't the overall encompassing that's how you should elope.
Yeah.
Like
and like I said before, what it really comes down to is what would be the best day for the both of you.
Right.
If you were to picture one day that would just be like, wow, that is so memorable, that is so enjoyable, then that's what you should do on your wedding day. Like why do anything else? Obviously, like we said, if you want amazing photos, there are certain things you can do to get them.
Certain times of day and stuff like that. But
what's more important is enjoying your day and the photos capturing that you enjoyed your day. That's what's really important.
Yeah.
So that is kind of our general idea of what an elopement actually looks like. Obviously, there was some ambiguity there because
You
of the
could
nature of
basically throw
elopements.
it out the window and come up with your own definition of elopement at this point.
That's how we're going to wrap up this podcast is just toss out, just ignore everything we just said in one ear, out the other. Don't listen to us. Do whatever you want. And that's it.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
That's all we really got. So if you guys enjoy this podcast and you guys are eloping, planning an elopement, thinking about eloping, trying to decide if you want to or not, or you just want to listen, make sure
cool.
If you think we're cool for some reason, weird.
Yeah. Then that's on you.
Yeah, that's on you. If you have a problem, go ahead and subscribe, follow us, whatever, on whatever podcast.
Oh my gosh, I'm calling out from now on.
Platform you're listening on. And then we will be releasing episodes every week. You can also follow us on social media if you don't already, where it's at the Pinckards. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, it's pronounced Pincard.
Are we just going to say this
Pickard.
every episode?
Yeah, we should. Not Pickard, not Pink Nerd, not Pincard.
Pincard, that's a good
Pincard,
one.
The Pinckards.
We'll just have to educate people every podcast episode. So, but other than that, we're out.
We are.
Do whatever
out.
you want.
So we will catch you next week.